Want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
Guess who messaged me 2 weeks later?
Is this the real estate agent?
Boom.
Shut up. What was the excuse? What was the excuse? Because there was one.
No, this is not even. I get this text saying like, "Hey, sorry for my poor communication." So like smiley face or something. And so I had 20 minutes of being smug. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's how it is. And then after that, I'm like, what can I do for you? And she's like, oh, and she gets like all edgy and teenage and like, oh, like weird emojis and like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm like, oh, just it's sort of weird. Like we have one date, we're setting up a second date, and I don't hear from you for 2 weeks. And
did you say this?
Yeah. And just
Okay.
and now this sort of popped up. You know, I'm just sort of curious. And her excuse was Brody's like, I'm just a free spirit, lol.
Oh, bye. Bye. Sorry.
And yeah, I wish I had some witty real estate retort of like, this property is no longer on the market, but it was just like, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
Thanks. No thanks. I'm
no
out.
fucking open houses here. That's for fucking sure. Wow.
So there you go, Misfits. If you've missed the backstory, go back and check probably the intro is the last 2 or 3 episodes, and there you go. There's the end of the trilogy, the end of the Scottish real estate trilogy. On that note, episode 60, roll those credits. From Sydney, Australia, all the way to Portland, USA, 2 misfits hang out after class to riff on the B-sides of professional life. These are your professional misfits. True story. True story. Charms was there in real time because I screenshot the message and said, guess what? And she's like, no fucking way. She's like, we're out, Chris. Red flag. No chance.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah. 100%. What? Bruh. Dude, what are you, fucking 10?
Yeah, it was teenage shit. Anyway, we're doing a podcast. All the way from Sydney, Australia. I'm your host, Christopher Sellers.
From Portland, Oregon, I'm Broedy Ipox.
And we're your professional misfits where we riff on the B-sides of life. And here we are, misfits, at the end of season 5, episode 60. It's bittersweet. We do a wrap-up. No set topics. We just do a little bit of a wrap-up of the season, of like where we've been, what we've talked about, where we're going, all that sort of stuff. I didn't really come with many notes, so Brody's driving. Broedy did homework. Broedy tapped into Joyce and said, what should we talk about? So, Broedy, I'm going to hand the mic over to you, my man. Where are we going and what are we doing?
Yeah, let's do it. I wanted to do things a little bit differently this time. I know we generally wrap up and we kind of touch on everything in the season. It's funny because watching last season's wrap up, it was actually a great fucking episode, and it was really nice too. I think in context, just so the misfits know, when we get to these episodes, like it isn't just our normal gig where we're in the living room and we're talking about just how we feel about the recording or the insights and things. Like we really kind of talk about also what was impactful in the season, what made a difference for us moving forward, those kind of things that kind of are the little nuances that matter. And it was just really refreshing, and the way we touch on things was it's a little bit different than most people. I did mention in the previous episode, this will be our first kind of preview episode of throwing things in. So when we flash back to mentions of prior episodes, I will be trying to find relevant clips to throw into the podcast. Yeah, we're going to do some cheeky edits. So I'm excited. I'm just excited. And yeah, Joyce has some questions that apparently she's been dying to ask. So I seriously, the first question I asked her in this little chain of asked and received was, hey, what would you want to hear from the Misfits? And it was cool because her rebuttal was based off of viral conversations off of other podcast hosts. These are questions I think your audience would want to hear. So It was kind of cool to have her retort in such a classy,
answer
professional
the question,
way.
and sit on the fence, bitch. Yeah.
Let's just fucking dive. Let's just dive. What's been the best experience for you this season? It could be an episode. It could be an experience. That's literally the word for word. So even if it's not related to the Misfits, this season, in that span of time, what's been
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, I'll give you one. Okay, one that's Misfits related and one that's probably not. The one that's Misfits related is we took a change of gears, Misfits, in not having any guests this season. So if you've watched any of the first 4 seasons, we will bring in guests, people we know, experts that we want to talk to about interesting topics, because building this thing, we thought that's what you do on a podcast, and we want to talk about the B-sides of life. So like bringing in Paul Watkins to go, dude, you're a pharmacist and you talk to school kids and you do ultra marathons. Like, what's this about? You know what I mean? Let's super cool and interesting guy, talking to Jahan, who's a criminal defense lawyer for organized crime and is openly candid about all of it and working with them. Really, really interesting. You know what I mean? So we thought you guys would get a lot of value out of that as well. Maybe not, but we sort of we took a break after season 4. We stepped into season 5 here and we made the conscious decision of like let's not have guests. Let's see how we roll. Because it was interesting, Misfits, as much as we thought that you guys would want to hear from other interesting professional people, a la Joe Rogan Experience and shit like that, our better performing episodes were the episodes where it was just Broedy and I. So
every single time.
So
and this season's justifiably really good proof to that, because I've done a shit job at promoting, and we've had the highest view and highest view time of any season prior. So,
which is really interesting to me. Really interesting to me.
It was to me too. When I first initially ran that by Chris, I said the same thing. I don't know if this is the right move. I really don't, because same thing. From outside in, and especially from, I feel like somebody like me that kind of tries to analyze on a deeper level, same exact rhetoric. I was like, this is what people want. This is what it's being consumed. This is what's out there. And look, I'll say this. I think we missed it, where it's like, yes, generally speaking, but that works for the solo podcast host. That works for the,
you might be right.
The independent kind of niche pod. It works that way, because
or if you're a like specific niche pod, like you were just doing it on marketing, so we're going to do this, or we're just doing it on like on whatever, like or Lex Friedman, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And it's funny too, because for us, when me and Chris first started this, I don't know if the Misfits know this. Should we go back to the origin story? Do you want to break into?
What, we're here, may as well.
Yeah, why not?
We have covered it before, so it's not new news.
No, it's not. But I feel like we've definitely got new Misfits this season. A lot of new views, so I think it's relevant. You should take this. Actually, I'm gonna fuck it
because I sunk it. All right. So the actual origin story from the start.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Misfits, we originally there was a trio. There was Broedy, myself, and another girl. And the irony is like this other girl brought us both together. Like Broedy and I didn't know each other from a bag of sand, but she knew the both of us. And she got in contact with each and said, like, Brody's a marketing guy. She was sort of in the middle, and Chris, you're over here. All really interesting. How about we create a podcast? And we both stepped in and said, yeah, this would be great. So we put it all together in the space of a couple of weeks. Like mapped out. Here's same thing. Probably what you saw of our season 1, I should say, is very, very similar to what we had mapped out previously with this third host. And we even recorded like 1 or 2 episods. Now the catch was
two. We never
correct.
We never made it to the third,
which never saw the light of day. But the reason is she proved quite difficult to deal with on really semantic matters that that you kind of need to get over if you need to build a podcast. Look, how it was. She didn't like the sound of her voice for one episode, and then so demanded that we reshoot it, which we did.
We did. Yep.
And then we did a second episode, which she was sort of kind of not happy with. And then the day before, we were going to launch the marketing and the episode and everything else like that, she unilaterally decided that, well, now I don't want to because of reasons. And so I may have been in a few creative projects before and have seen patterns like this before. She made this decision immediately after an hour-long meeting between the three of us. And Broedy had to like bounce and like take care of his kids or whatever. And then 5 minutes after this meeting, she's like, "Oh, you know how we said we'd do that thing? How about we do this instead?" And that's
which Misfits, by the way, took me editing every single second of her audio track.
Which wasn't going to happen.
Oh my God.
So I sort of said, listen, we've just had an hour meeting. We've all decided probably best not to change your mind 5 minutes later. Like, I don't know where this is coming from.
And that was put in a group text, Misfits. That wasn't they didn't go back and forth. It was all professional. I mean, from where we sat, it felt professional, I guess.
And then she doubled down and said, "Well, I'm not comfortable, and so I'm not going to unless X, Y, and Z." So I, in my most professional tone, per our last email, like, cool, I'm gonna step out of this project. So like, you and Broedy can continue. You can use the name. That's fine. I'd prefer that none of my that I'm not involved and blah 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 blah. And I wish you all the best. Thanks. I just stepped out. Broedy still hasn't seen.
And the exit message was not and especially how fired up the conversation became on this other party's end. Chris's messages were never fucking outright disrespectful or rude or condescending or any of those things.
And that's. I'm sure you've all worked with people like this, Misfits. So when unreasonable people kind of get called out, and then I didn't even. Again, it wasn't crucifying her. It was like, cool. If this is the way it wants to go, then I'm out, and you can do whatever you want to do, right? And so, what does an unreasonable person do? Like, fucking implode. Like, I can't believe this is a betrayal. How dare you treat me like this? And no. What's sort of Brody's nodding in agreement. What's sort of funny and sad at the time is because all of this took place in probably the space of 45 minutes, and Brody's out taking care of his kids.
Yep.
And so then two or 3 hours later, Broedy gets a chance to look at his phone and just sees that from the last time we met,
which it was solved. It was solved, and we were happy. I thought we were all happy.
And then 3 hours later, he's come back, and the entire farmhouse is on fire, and like the chickens are running around, and like Chris has abandoned it, and like this chick is like,
she's running around with a shotgun and fucking screaming.
The sky is falling, and this is the sort of guy Broedy is. Broedy like tried to mediate, even that evening, kind of privately messaged me and said, "Hey, just like, don't want to talk about the podcast. Like, how are you? Are you okay? Take a breath. Like, just breathe. Hopefully things will calm down. We'll talk about it tomorrow." Now, the very short story is obviously it didn't work out. This was never going to go ahead. And I don't know if she's blocked you, but she definitely blocked me.
Oh,
she's like,
dude, from everything. I mean,
okay, right.
From WhatsApp, LinkedIn,
everything. So we got the scorched earth treatment because like ultimate betrayal. And if you don't, no, go on.
Dude, I never said anything about this, but in that conversation, that was the thing that fucking rubbed me so wrong, bro. Because like I said, at the end of where I had left the conversation, it was good. Like, even she was like, no, this makes me happy. I feel great. This is something I can move forward with. Thank you guys for hearing me. All this shit. Cool. Fucking then literally to come back to, I cannot believe you guys would betray me like this. Misfits. Look, Misfits, what she was relating it to was completely unrelated to the actual issue at hand. We had a moment the day before where same thing. We were having an issue. We're working it out with said host. she comes to us, and both Chris and I are like, hey, you know what? It's actually really understandable, and we hear you, and we see where it's coming from, and we get you. This is what it is. And she, again, just even from this person, we're like, damn, she feels good about us, and that's a hard place to get someone through. And then, yeah, like I said, it was whiplash. It was just fucking whiplash. Yeah. And I, like Chris said, I came back the following day and I said, nope, I'm good. Absolutely the fuck not. I told him point, and I think this is the thing that rubbed her wrong on my end. And I feel a little partial to how I delivered it, because I did in that group chat say, look, what we came up with here for the Misfits, the idea that we've, and you and I have cultivated it to a different level, but what that initial project was to me was so much bigger than this fucking shitty little disagreement or argument or insecurity that they were having, that I was like, I'm going to keep fucking going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep working on something like this. And if either one of you want to be a part of it, that'd be fantastic. She fucking rebutted, blew up, scorched earth thing, like Chris said. I took a couple weeks from that fucking experience where I was like, I don't even know what the fuck just happened. And like Chris said, in a span of 2 weeks, Chris and I both, and this is not a fucking joke, Misfits, from top to bottom, Chris had built the landing page. I had started the Spotify. I had started the YouTube. We had, on multiple levels, hand-drawn and hand-designed a fucking logo that was a fucking absolute issue. The entire same thing, just a fucking nightmare. And yeah, none of it would have been enough. So to Chris's fucking to you, like, props to you for being able to spot an impossible project. You know what I mean? Because I think I would have kept.
I think you would have too. You would have tried to mediate and been the nice guy, and of course that makes me the prick. And I'm sure we've all been there, Misfits, where like this is a sinking ship, and it is one person's fault. Like where there's a lot of accommodating going on here, and there's a lot of like we all agree, and then all of a sudden someone goes, "Nah, I don't wanna." Yeah, great. This isn't functional. And even to the point where we're bending out, like we recorded an episode, you didn't like it, so we decided to re-record. So that gives
re-record Misfits. Right. This is authentic, right? Like our whole thing was first take, one conversation. Let's not do this again.
And so that's anyway. So that was that mess, right? And so afterwards, after that sort of imploded fantastically, I think it would have been only about a week or so later.
Yeah, Broedy, maybe it wasn't 2 weeks, but
yeah.
Like it was a couple days. I needed some days.
Because you sent a message. You sent a message after a few days, going, "Hey man, just want to check in. Nothing about the podcast. Just want to see how you're doing, how you're traveling, where you're sitting out," which I really appreciated. There was no shop talk, no agenda. And then it was a little while after that that Broedy reached out again and said, "Look, I think this concept is really great, considering like our voice in the market and whatever. Like, would you consider sort of doing it with me?" And I said, "Yeah." And the funny thing is, we got more done in a week or 2 weeks than we did in a month prior.
And the quality of the work as well was just exponentially different.
And it was so easy. And here we are 50, 60 episodes later. Almost a year later?
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep, almost a year. Yeah.
All
and
that.
Thousands of views, hundreds of hours of watch time. Thousands of Misfits have followed and joined us. Yeah, it's just... And I'm going to be honest with you. This is the most petty shit I'm going to say. Yeah. But there's part of me that wish she hadn't blocked me on fucking everything.
Just so she could see.
Just so you could see.
You know she does, because she left... Here's something, Misfit. She left anonymous...
She made a fucking fake YouTube.
Correct. She made a fake YouTube account just to comment nasty shit and call us all misogynists.
For literally like 3 videos in a row at Misfits.
Yeah.
It was like some shit about, oh, this host does this, that host does that.
Especially
they're both
me.
misogynistic.
It
was really targeted.
It was especially pointed at me, and we're like, okay, like, great. Like, it can only be one person, so all right, moving on. But yeah, so there you go, Misfits. That's the origin story. And how do we? That's because we were talking about how we originally had guests, and now we don't have guests, and now and then this season we've decided just to be the two of us. And I think you're right. I think it's if you're a solo host, you are relying on someone else to bring something to the conversation to talk about, unless you're strictly going to do video essays.
Oh my god! And I'm sorry, there's so few people that are good at monologuing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that there's not a fuck ton of shit that people are good at talking about. That's not what I mean. I mean, take a monologue. If you can digest more than, I'd even say, 3 minutes of someone just monologuing, that's a speaker, and they've got potential to do that. But even then,
yeah,
for an entertainment purpose, you're not getting what you would get out of the normal market content. You know what I mean? Like there's too much. It's too flashy, too whiplashy, too back and forth, too entertaining, too gimmicky. I truly think one person to compete by themselves, so they need the other person.
Yeah, unless you're a name, I imagine. But getting right to the root of this, like, looking at all the other episodes, looking at where this season has evolved to, and basically like looking at the numbers as opposed to how I might personally or professionally feel about it. The audience, which is you guys, and thank you so much for being here, seems to buy into more like our little fireside couchside chats. So okay, I'll say this though, I'll open up about this. Part of the reason why I really wanted guests for the first couple of seasons is because if we're talking about the B-sides of life, and if we're talking about sex and relationships and gender roles and all those sorts of things, I was really aware, I won't say hesitant, but I was probably sensitive and aware to the fact, like, we're two straight men, like in 2 different countries, sure, but like 2 straight men talking about all of these issues, right? Yep. And the last thing I wanted to come off as
very easily could be flagged.
Like 2 straight men talking about like women and sex and like, no, like, surely. And so even though like deep in the inside part of me is like, surely two straight men can have an objective, healthy, in-depth conversation around these subjects, like around like, and what do women think? And I'm not quite sure. And like, what about the gender roles for this and that? Like, we talked about role models, like, well, who's a female role model? And we honestly didn't know. And I asked a few girlfriends of mine, and they're like shrugged. So, and so I was, in the first few seasons, I was very, very conscious of that. So I really wanted to bring in like the female professionals that I knew, not just to demonstrate that they had, like, they're fucking great and they're interesting, and they all were, but that we actually do have those sort of relationships, and we can have these healthy discussions. Like, it's not
right that the conversations are 100% biased to our side. Yeah, no, I agree. I think, look, I'll be honest with you. I think that's why us talking is working so well. It is because, look, same thing. I had the same issue, and I told you that. I didn't want it to be just 2 dudes.
Bros being bros in a brocast.
And it's just and it's just bro talk. And because that's the shit that's out there. I mean, even the stuff that is like hitting hard right now on TikTok and shit, it is 2 dudes sitting there either talking about how they wish they were more successful or they could do more or what. Even on the introspective level, it's still very bro talk. Like, it's just, it is. And that's the thing to me, that where I feel like we flipped it on its head. And I think that the more consistent we get and the longer that we're in this game, that's going to be the buy-in is, we don't have a fucking gimmick where we're trying expired foods every fucking week just to get fucking views.
Yeah.
We don't have
to hate on the apps.
None of it.
You can be a dad and love your kids and have a job and still run a podcast. And
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think, yeah, I think it's just so much more real for people and it's so funny too, because I think the perspective for a while there, and I'm gonna be honest, this might just be a personal thing, but I feel like I saw it. I feel like I tangibly saw it for probably a good 5 years. I think everybody thought you had to be a fucking Chad to be on fucking Instagram and Facebook and make it. You had to be a total fucking Betty to do fucking anything, right? Like, and it's just a fucking fallacy. Like, if you look now in the last year, what's been fucking blown, and people are like, oh my God, it's over fucking night. It really is, because that's how much people have been starved and looking for the real shit. I want to hear two dudes have an introspect. Please show me that there's a goddamn fucking male on this planet that can have a conversation about sex, and it's not just about how he fucked the bitch.
Yes.
Please.
Well,
I mean, please, because I know I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one.
And I know we've mentioned it before as well, in terms of like there's a silent majority. I mean, normally what you see on like the peaks on TikToks or whatever else, it's that tip of the iceberg shit. And normally it does peg very well into its stereotypical X, Y, and Z. And you go, great. But like surely there's more. There's like deeper conversations out there. Yep. But was there necessarily, two average Joes having deeper conversations about like a broad range of things? And it seems like the answer was no, not really.
Nope.
And to be honest,
I can't find them. And that's the thing. I told Chris this last season because, like he had mentioned, we took a break.
You told me from the very beginning, to be honest. I was about to say, like, Broedy saw this and I never did. And my analogy was always like, Brody's driving the ship and I'm just here to take in the view. I don't know where we're going. Broedy says we're going to get there soon. And I'm like, cool, weather's nice. I'll go like swim laps in the pool or something. And sometimes I'll be like, dude, where the fuck are we going and when are we getting there? I'm still like that. Yeah. But at least with right now, we seem to be gathering some friends on the deck of the boat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I like that, but I interrupted you. Sorry.
No. That's a great place to go, because I do want to say this in this episode. I am gonna clip this. Sorry, Misfits, calling it, but I want to thank you guys. Like, truly, you guys are showing up in the comments, and this is real. Some of the case study stuff that I've done for Chris is, you can look at YouTube channels that have 35,000, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 subscribers, right? Maybe even they're doing well in views, but you can go to the comment section and they have as many comments as we do. That's incredible, guys. That's incredible that a podcast with just over 100 subs and in the thousands of views is generating enough conversation that fucking giant podcasts are. Like, that to me is the essence of what we're trying to do, right? Is we're trying to get you to feel comfortable to talk about it, and I think that's what a lot of podcasts are missing. You get Jordan fucking Peterson and Andrew Tate and fucking Joe Rogan in a room. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting fucking conversation that you probably want to listen to. How much are you really going to take away from it that you relate to on a deep fundamental level? Probably not much. You're not any one of those guys, and you're not doing probably a fraction of what they are, and it's just too hard to relate.
I was going to say the advice is always easy to give when you're looking down the mountain, and it hits different. Yep. It's like the people who say like, I don't really care about money in the mansion with the car. It's like, I'm not really into success. On the cover of Forbes, like, go fuck yourself, right? And and we make no illusions about where we're currently at, like literally like 100 subscribers, fucking good for us, and like 400 on LinkedIn, like yay. And then what I would expect, right? But also the projects that aren't this, like, over here, I'm building a fintech that is literally waiting on $100 million worth of investment tied to the United Nations. That sounds like a baller claim. It probably is, but until I sign, I've got fucking nothing. So I'm open with you guys, and for the last 4 or 5 seasons have been about, this is what I'm building. This is how we're building it. This is what I'm going through. This is how fucking long it's taking. So sorry.
To be fair, we warned you. We did warn you.
Yeah. Like even I didn't know, and it sort of swings and roundabouts and like all this sort of stuff, and that's great. But it's a struggle and it's a journey, and you've still got to make life happen and do whatever in the meantime, right? But I'm hoping that when I sign and I'm the guy and I'm doing the thing and I'm still here on this podcast, I'm not suddenly dispensing the fucking monk-like wisdom of like, money doesn't matter. Focus on your inner passions. This sort of shit. We've done an episode on passions. We broke that down. Like, go watch that and discover what we think about it. And so the advice hits different when you're like standing on top of the mountain and looking down at the peasants. It's a very different game when it's you got skin in the game and you're trying to build.
Right. And that right there, that connection to us is what I knew we had to offer. And this is the thing. This is the thing too. Because of how we've done it, because of the way that we plan to do this. Look, I genuinely do not think there's a point in time where comparatively what me and Chris can build to what we could be offered, right, we would sell out. It would take a fucking treehouse, and guess what? That motherfucking treehouse comes with some stipulations, and I still have motherfucking creative control. It's just interesting that they'll get to come along, and even watching the podcast evolve. I've called this, and I'm still calling it. There will eventually be a season where me and Chris are sitting together in the same room in the same fucking studio.
I don't know. I think the magic is like never meeting Broedy.
I know. God damn it. This has been going on since like season 2.
And Broedy will chase me and I'll just keep running around the world going.
I'll set an appointment for a studio in Sydney, and then there'll be a note in the studio that'll be like, sorry. I'm in Thailand.
In Portland. I thought I was coming to you, but you're coming to shit. Oh no, sorry. Yeah.
God damn it. I already see it.
Funny.
But yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think that's and look, I don't want to stay here too long. I hate being that guy, and I'm not so I will be showy when I can be, right? Like I'll have my nice shirts and I'll have my new hats every day and blah blah blah. But again, like you're talking about, when you are wearing a fucking $7,000 suit and you're talking about how fucking hard your life is, it is so hard for me to believe you. It's so hard for me to believe you. And that's, I think guys like that just miss it, right? Like, and I'm not saying they haven't paid their dues. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying where they're at now, it's like they completely forgot about the dues that they paid.
Yeah, it's you. And you're right. It might just be perception sometimes, because if you, again, it's not even just the career and the money and everything. It's the wife and the kids and that's as equally as much as success, which I don't have. Like we're joking about like my shit first dates for to open the last 3 episodes, right? I wonder how many bad dates I've had like through the course of every season. It'd be amazing. There's a supercut. Anyway, but it's easy. It might just be our cynicism as well of like, you see the person with the house and the car, like the happy family, and they step out of the Porsche and you're like, fuck you. But they're telling us like, it was so hard. It took like so long to get here. And you're like,
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows? And who
Yeah.
knows? You know what I mean? And even who knows? And I would like to think, it's really funny we're here because I was literally practicing this speech yesterday in my head for some reason because I'm fucking crazy. Like I'm, I'm imagining myself on a panel being interviewed by whomever, and they're like, "Oh, because you're now the guy and you've made it, and how did you come up with this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's fucking amazing, fintech." Meh, 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 meh. And I'm like, "Yeah, but I, I'm an artist. I'm used to being broke, right? And regardless of what this brings or whatever, and hopefully it'll make my life a little bit more comfortable and stable, but I still remember what it's like to get the electricity bill and then have to budget for the next 3 weeks to know that I'm going to be able to pay it.
Yep.
You know? So like that's a little bit of that grain of humility, that pebble in your shoe will just keep you connected to like the sort of the world around you. And I think at least I've lived this life long enough that regardless of I wear those clothes more comfortably than I will like the obnoxious Pratt with the polo shirt. You know what I mean? And I see it even now. Like the cafe. I mean, I live in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. It's quite a wealthy area, but still, like say please and thank you to staff. That costs nothing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So there's a difference between wealth and class.
There is. Yes,
there you
absolutely. 100%.
There's a gem.
Okay. Joyce, what do you got? What else you got? That was crazy. That was one good job.
That's 36
Joyce.
minutes.
That's good. One single Joyce, you phenomenal. I wish I could pat her on the back.
Good job. Good job.
Okay, now we'll try one of the funny ones. How about that?
All right. Oh, good.
Okay, if you could delete one thing from existence, no questions asked, what would it be and why?
Real estate agent.
One thing.
Zero hesitation.
Good. That was good. That is not your answer. What is your fucking answer?
Oh, it'd be up there. Okay, delete one thing. Ooh. It's not world poverty. It's not world hunger. It's let's be reasonable.
We're being real here.
Yeah,
getting real. In your personal life, one thing you could literally just write out.
I'm stuck.
I am too. It's weird. That's crazy. One thing that I would delete from existence. Like your head initially goes to dumb shit where you're like, yeah, spiders or fucking like just stupid, inconvenient shit.
Or mosquitoes.
It's like, yeah. But it's like, I'm not wasting the fucking
that wish.
What the hell on fucking spiders? I could deal with that. That's a good damn question.
It is. I'm stumped. What would you do, Misfits? I'm going to throw it to you. So like throw it in the comments of like what you now have more time to think about it than we do. We're trying to process this in real time. No, I don't. Yeah, I'll chew on that because I don't have an answer.
Yeah, maybe we'll come back to that one. We'll try another one from the humor list.
All right.
If your life was a sitcom,
yes,
what would be the title, and would there be a theme song?
There'd have to be a theme song. If it's a sitcom, then it's a series. You know, I have thought about this because I have thought about how
your life would be a great fucking sitcom.
Well, thanks. So here's my pitch though, and it would be because I've thought of this for a concept. Obviously being a actor and a screenwriting kid, so I've thought about what this would actually be like. So if you imagine my life, but it's animated, and it's the concept is it'd be like day in the life of me. So maybe just like I work at the local cafe with the Italian lads, let's say, and it's you have aspirations for all these other things and love and break up and whatever. But it's sort of like an anime where it's animated. But the gimmick with every character is they have one defining sort of feature or animalistic feature or that sets them apart as that particular character. And so for the three Italian boys at the cafe, for instance, they'd be the three sad clowns, right? So one would be like the really, really sad clown that never talks. One would be like the angry clown that's always like overly, like he's the older brother who's always overly aggressive and always speaking in Italian. And then you'd have the older brother's, the older brother's little fat son. So like little fat round, you know what I mean? So like you have those three guys, for instance. And then my character, I'm probably giving away the concept, but like my character has a black.
We're claiming rights to this right
Thank
now.
you. It's mine. Copyright TM.
If we see this
my original
anywhere,
concept.
fucking you're sued.
Yeah. My character would have a black halo, but the halo is actually representative of my depression and my mental health. So depending on whom I'm talking
Interesting.
to, right? Depending on who I'm talking to or what mood I'm in or what emotional state I'm in, the halo will take different shapes and different forms. And sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes it's solid, sometimes it's sharp, sometimes it's right. And depending on what, thanks. And depending on what relationships I'm in, it's the same sort of thing. So it's always sort of reflected of my inner state.
But I can the other characters see it?
No.
Dude, this is a fucking extremely good concept.
Thanks. Except of course, there would be one girl out there somewhere who would see it, for instance. But yeah, and so all of these characters, you know, are like slightly more than human, if you get me, like for that to suit that animated style. But our lead hero, this would be his sort of gimmick, and then what he has to put up with. So that's. There you go. That's my concept.
Wow.
It would have to have original music because I insist.
It's so much fucking better than anything I'm in. What the fuck, dude?
That's what happens when you ask a creative nerd, like, what do you think about...
Dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, fuck me running up a slippery fucking hill. I don't know how to follow that, Misfits. Fuck, dude. My sitcom...
Okay, or if you want to answer, or I've got a separate question you can answer.
Okay, I like that.
If you could be any animal, magical or real.
I love that. Okay.
What would you be?
Okay. You do have to answer this as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but real quick, actually, because it just popped into my head for whatever reason. Have you seen and it's American sitcom, the show... Oh, fuck, I can't even fucking remember. He was an actor. He died, but anyways, he's got a house full of girls. Like it's just a sitcom about him being a dad. That's what my fucking life would be. Because look, outside in, I think even same thing you were talking about, where it's like it doesn't matter the relationships I'm in or the things I'm doing or the things I'm accomplishing. Misfits, I've reached 10 million motherfucking people on one project in the last fucking 90 days. That's if as a marketing nerd, anybody in there, you'll know that's fucking insane. Okay, I've done that, but at the end of the day, the only thing that fucking matters is that I got spit up on my shirt and my kids are kicking me in my balls. You know, like
dad life.
Dude, I just conquered the world and then I get fucking spit on by my kids. That would be my sitcom.
Yeah.
That would be my sitcom.
Okay.
Fucking animal that I would be.
Yes.
I think it. And you said I can pick mythical or not.
Yeah, real or mythical, whatever you want.
So like I've always thought about it, and I know it's so corny, but since I was a kid, dragon and okay. Now the reason that I
go on, yeah.
Now, the reason that I say dragon is because when I was young, I actually had a fucking encyclopedia. It was made to look like it was from the medieval times, and it's got all these different dragons and everything through it. And one common theme through all the descriptions in this book of dragons was their value of treasure. Now, the cool thing about each of these different dragons was they valued a different treasure. And to me, that was always my connection, where it was like at the time I was so fucking enthralled with drawing and painting and art that like that was my treasure. You know what I mean? I'd get
Yes.
I'd get new pencils, or I'd get a new notebook, and I fucking literally would imagine myself as a fucking little dragon, and that was my trove, and that was my hoard, and if anybody tried to take it from me,
What color were you?
red every time.
Red dragon. Did you have wings?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Interesting.
Legs and wings, because I know that's a controversy too. Some people just do the
yes.
wings and then the hind legs. Some people only do wings. So,
yes.
yeah.
Is
So I
like
got four legs and
long
wings.
snout or like short snout, like Game of Thrones?
I always imagined, and this is again so fucking corny, because of my upbringing, face more like Godzilla.
Okay, yeah. Like dragon lizard. Yeah, red dragon lizard with 4 legs and wings, protecting your treasure trove of pencils and art and paper.
I never said this stuff.
We get into the deep shit here.
Holy
Misfits.
Fuck. All right, you fucking take it away.
You sort of spoiled my answer, because it's the same. It's a dragon, and normally people don't think of that, but it's a different sort of dragon. So it's the kind of dragon from the Never-Ending Story.
Love it.
Right. So
Love it.
So long serpent-like, can fly, doesn't necessarily need wings, but the whole gimmick again is like the sort of dragon that would be on the cave in the cave on the top of a mountain that would overlook and protect the village below, and so the villagers could sometimes make the hike all the way up to the mountains and like through the clouds to the very, very peak, and there would be like the wise dragon to kind of give sage advice and protect the village below. So I don't know, I'm sure everyone can read a lot into that.
For the Misfits that don't know, that probably comes a little bit from your upbringing and and this is just me outside in relating to you. The time at the Kung Fu studio, you were essentially the protector, you know what I mean? And that's gotta, that role, once you've played it.
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing. Let's take a weird detour here. I want to talk about you for a second. Because you have you can talk on this as an actor playing different roles. And I don't know why I just thought of it. That's got to be either taxing or exhilarating or both. Because the way that I look at it is like, you are, when you embody something, you're absorbing some of it. There's no fucking shot that you're not. We as humans do that on a psychological level. That's what we emulate. Like that's how we become what we think we are. Like that's. So as an actor, did you ever find that there was a role that you played that you took more from than just the experience? Like it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the immediate answer is no, because because if so, it would be slapping me in the face, right? But I understand.
Yes.
I understand exactly what you're asking. And to give you a point of reference, this is something that's interesting because I never really considered it. I remember when I wrote and produced my film, and my younger brother was in it, because the story is loosely based on our family, but it was a character specifically written about him that was him, and it turned out that he was the only person that could play it, and then he agreed to, right? But Luke's not a trained actor at all, but at the time he did it, and I was extraordinarily grateful for it, and he was great in it. He was perfect. Years later, actually only recently, he mentioned to me, he's like, look, had I known what I would go through to do that role, I probably never would have done it, because to your point, like, it just unearthed all kinds of shit for him, and emotionally required him to go to a place that he either thought he would over or moved through or whatever else. And something else that he confessed to me as well, like while reading the script and doing whatever, because obviously I've written the character about him and his sort of state, you know what I mean? So there's there is a scene in a
Having
hospital.
to digest your perception of him. Yeah.
Exactly right. And there's literally a scene where the two brothers are fucking having it out, like in a hospital ward about, he's saying like, you abandoned me and everything else. And I'm like, well, fuck, like, our dad died too, but like you go and crawl into a cave and I kind of do this and that, like what the fuck? And so there's a real sort of heated scene. And of course he, as a reader, is like reading into a lot of this of like how I see or did see him,
Right.
And he again, he still did the role and he was great and all these sort of things, but it's one of those perspectives that I take for granted because I'm trained. You read the script, you step into the story. Like, yes, you must take on a certain emotional burden because my job is to authentically convince you. That's it. Like, you need to believe that Romeo's falling in love every single night. Yep. And it's my job to take you there, right?
Yep.
And so that's the craft, right? And then the hard part actually is putting it down, leaving it on stage, then going back and being a normal human being. Like that's so you transition in, transition out. So, and I'll just finish. But for a layperson like Luke, he doesn't have that, and so he's sort
hard
of left.
To take the cape off. Yeah.
Well, like one, even to get into it, which is why a lot of people find like actual genuine acting confronting, even, and this is, I think I talked about this with Linda, I've talked about this before, but this is what an audition is. Like, you show up with like, you're a great personality, you might be a good looking guy or girl, fantastic. You're going to deliver a piece that you're comfortable with. Great. Now we're going to stretch your limitations. Cool. You can do pretty white girl. I want you to do rape victim. I want you to do like mean abusive mother. I want you to do bitter girlfriend, bitter wife, and so you start to stretch this, right? You stretch this emotional range and you have to go there. Some people can and some people can't.
Oh, is there any role that you wouldn't have played?
No, because I find the challenge exciting, which is why. Yeah.
Okay. What if?
But it's often why you hear guys like Charles Bronson, or like other guys like this, or even the guy who played Sugar in No Country for Old Men. His name's forgetting, but it's why villains are so much more interesting and fun to play, right? Because like you never get to be that guy, right? And to step into this mindset and like really go there and see where these places and where these characters will take you.
Hasn't that fucked people up? I mean, that's
sure. But that's yes, it has. But these are the things we hear about. You hear about Ledger and but the Joker sent him crazy. Actually, not. It was he committed suicide in a completely different film. You're wrong. The story is nice, but you're wrong, right? Yep. And but you hear these stories of like this,
and what fucking people love to fucking leave out about Ledger. And don't get me wrong, I love him too, and I think he was a phenomenal
Joker
actor. Oh my god, all the pieces he played, I believed him. I thought he was great. The thing is, he had fucking issues. He had issues. I'm not faulting him for that. I'm not saying he was less of a person. He had issues long before the fucking Joker. And before the Joker.
And so does a whole bunch of investment bankers, a whole bunch of teachers, a whole bunch of accountants, a whole bunch of lawyers, a whole bunch of garbage truck drivers, and all of these people could OD or do whatever else or fuck around on the weekend and no one would care. But like certain individuals are in the spotlight, makes for a fantastic story, But to answer your question, does it fuck people? Right. To answer your question, does it fuck people up? Yeah, it fucks up amateurs. And it requires a certain level of professionalism or even like self-care as well. Like, come on, like all actors and artists are probably a little bit crazy and unhinged because you wouldn't step into this sort of life.
Word. Yeah.
You wouldn't play make-believe as a profession. If you weren't, somewhat invested in it, right?
Okay, there's not a role you wouldn't play.
Yeah.
Is there a role, do you think, that would affect you? Right? Just like we're talking about. And I mean, really give it a little bit of thought here. Because I'm talking even fucking exhausted dad fucking murders his family kind of fucking shit. And I mean,
interesting.
No, that's totally fine. And that's the curiosity for me, because I've never sat with the idea of playing a role other than my own.
There was,
like
okay,
that's
there's been, okay, I'll give you an example. There's been a few, when I was in acting college, there was a few that really made me uncomfortable. They obviously had to, and probably would still make me uncomfortable now. But there was, again, it's from a play and I can't remember what it was. I should, but it was a brother and a sister, like redneck brother and a sister, and they're actually having like an incestuous relationship. But it's like it's on again and but the thing is, it's on again and off again, and it's kind of the dynamic was
driven,
and the dynamic was really, really interesting, because sometimes like she would manipulate him. And like, and it's that really toxic, dysfunctional, abusive relationship where she would manipulate and push his buttons to see what he would do. And like, he's either trying to be a good person, or there's times you're like, nah, fuck it. Like, you're going to fall in line. And like, I'm the older brother. And so like really aggressive, really reliant on the threat of violence and all that sort of stuff, like masculine sort of violence, which is really fucking uncomfortable for me. Like leaning into male masculine violence to get your way, where you actually previously, I'm trained not to. Like I could fuck you up if I lose control or if I chose to. And so trying to play in the middle of that was really uncomfortable. And still is. But those dynamics, again, it's you're not solo. Like, you'll have someone in the scene with you, and ideally you have a good director who can go, all right, so here's how we're going to go and why, and sort of coach you or facilitate with what you need. You know what I mean? So it's not, as much as actors are the stars, you're seldom solo on a stage.
Yeah, you know what? And I imagine too, I think, like you said, it would eventually become more of like a practice for the profession's sake, where it's like, hey, this is fucking icky. Just like you said, this shit is difficult as fuck. This isn't me when I'm done with the scene, though. I'm not fucking my sister.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? Like, I that's not me. I'm not fucking manipulating her with violence. Like, yes, I'm playing that. Yeah, okay. I see too very distinctly where you say that, where it's like, if you could see how you get into the psychology of a role. You can absolutely do that. The exploration of it, like you said, is kind of the intriguing part of that, to where you get to leave it alone, right? Like, you are, yes, you got to explore there. You don't live there. You don't fucking live there. And that's, you know what? That's another kind of thing that I want to kind of relate to the Ledger thing. The same thing is like, bro, Ledger lived in hell. Like, it wasn't the Joker or just the movie that he was on. Motherfucker suffered up here. Like, that shit didn't come from a fucking movie. You know what I mean? Like, he might have exacerbated a problem, but he was who he was before. You know,
and like Philip Seymour Hoffman, one of the greatest modern actors of probably our time, also OD'd, but no one frames him and his career in the same way that they frame Ledger.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
True.
Just something to consider.
No, that's fair.
But there's, there's no. But there's, so for the final little bit on that, like for personal insight, what I would notice is after I'd finished a show or after I'd finished a theater run, about a week after closing night, I'd get really sick, in bed for like 2 or 3 days. And that was literally just my body purging everything that I didn't need anymore. And so emotional state, language, script, dialogue, all of that, just like completely purging it, like flushing a bucket, to the point where I can't remember any of the scripts or the lines that I've done. I couldn't even give you lines from my own film. You know what I mean? So it's you do like you step in, you do the work, you build all this thing, you build the world, you become the character, you know, and also live life on the side. Then you do the work, and then once the work, this is my process. Like, once the work is done, it's like, cool, I don't need that flush and then the body kind of just shuts everything off. And like, great, now I can sort of be fresh for the next thing. Everyone has different processes. Everyone has different psychologies and methods, but that just happens to be mine.
You know what? Any acting misfits out there? I hope that helped. That was fucking super informative. It makes me curious if we should do an episode on that. I mean, there's a ton of people, and look, I'll say it like this, more so on, and you run with this. You create the arcs, Misfits. He does, and he does a fantastic job. But something along the lines of, persona. A lot of us step into ulterior personas.
You step into work life.
Right, 100%.
You step back into family life. Yeah,
and then you step right the fuck out. And I think it's interesting to, like you said, make that parallel that it's, I mean, we all wear a mask in different facets of life, right? You're probably acting more than you think you are.
All the world's a stage, and men and women merely players.
Yeah,
there you go, there's a line. Right. Well, I tell you what, if the Misfits mention it in the comments, so they give it a thumbs up and they go, yeah, that's what we want to hear about, that's what we'll do, because we're still mapping out season 6 Misfits. Yep. So like I mentioned last week, if there's some things that you want us to talk about for season 6, let us know, because it's still shaking out, and so you get to have your say.
Yes. Yes. And you guys have had your say in the past. We've done those episodes. And surprisingly, some of those episodes in past seasons were some of the best ones. So
true.
Tune in, make the decision, make the conversation.
All right. That's it.
Joyce, you were fucking incredible.
Joyce was great.
I think we answered we did 2 questions.
MVP for the season.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't do the IGU intro. Nick's gonna kill me. Hey, man. Thanks for sponsoring the season. I just forgot you on the last episode. That's amazing.
We can throw something in after the fact. Oh, this is gonna have flashy editing. Of course, we could do something. Yeah, we could do something.
All right. Was there anything else before I throw to the outro?
No, I'm just astounded that we covered that much time with 2 questions.
2 questions. That's how it is. That's how you run a podcast. Yeah. All right. So, Misfits, you can find us. You should know by now. ProMisfitsPodcast.com. You can find all of our socials. Find Broedy on all the things. Find me on all the things. TikTok, on LinkedIn, on Insta, on obviously on YouTube. You can support us on Spotify. That'd be cool, because we're looking to do big things next season. Let us know what you want to see in the comments. Season 6 is coming soon. Don't know what it's going to be yet. Let us know. Broedy, any final thoughts for the season?
No.
You said your thank yous earlier. I'll say my thank yous. Thanks for being here, Misfits. Thanks for being supportive, and coming on this journey with us. No, thanks for being part of the conversation. It's cool for me and Broedy to hang out. We do that anyway. But to have you guys be along with us in your cars, listening, at home, chilling out, or doing whatever it is you're doing, thanks for being here. It's cool to know that you can share a little something with someone that's different and makes a bit of a difference in your life, or improves things just a little, gives you a fresh perspective. I think that's a cool and human thing to do. And that's why we're here.
Well said. Right. Yeah, I love that though. This was not to sidetrack from the end, but I really do. Every time I look at a view or I see a playthrough that's 19 minutes long, I always imagine what you guys are doing. Whether you're in the car or you're at the office or you're doing yard work and you got the headphones on. That means so much to me. I know it sounds so silly, but those moments that I create in my head, imagining you guys and who's out there doing that, that's huge.
That's cool. On that note, Misfits, I've been Chris.
I've been Broedy.
And you stay classy. We'll see you in season 6.